Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Vince Rocco in New York, where the state of our industry is cautious. So let's get right to what everyone is talking about. Urgency in real estate is no longer a uniform experience, and nowhere is that more evident than when comparing New York City with its suburban neighbor, Connecticut. In New York City, urgency is selective. Buyers remain cautious. Sellers are measured, yet competitively priced homes in the right buildings and neighborhoods are moving quickly. We're going to talk about it. And that reveals pockets of renewed momentum beneath a seemingly steady surface. Meanwhile, Connecticut shows a different form of urgency driven by lifestyle, migrations, limited inventory, and strong demand for turnkey properties in desirable towns and school districts. The moment the right home hits the market, competition surges. Together, these two markets create a regional ecosystem where urgency does not disappear, it simply shifts. And understanding where that urgency is concentrated and how pricing, product, and buyer psychology shape it become essential for consumers, brokers, and investors navigating the corridor between city and suburb. And here on set with me today, I'm so excited, are Itzy Garay, Sara Rotter, and Christopher Halstead, all from Brown Harris Stevens. And they join me now to discuss. But first, let me welcome my listeners and my viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. This is Talking New York Real Estate, so let's go behind the headlines and inside the state of our industry.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. I am really excited about this show. I know I say that most weeks, but this one I really am, because look at the cast of people I've got here today, right? All the executives here in our company at Brown Harris Stevens. And this was strategic because I wanted them to talk a little bit about where we are ending up 2025 and what their predictions are going to be in 2026. But more importantly, I think the title of the episode is something about urgency. Where is the urgency? Where has it been? Is it coming back? How do we even define urgency? Because all of these things matter when it comes to kind of defining what our marketplace is. So Itzy, I want to kind of start with you in New York City. And from your perspective, where do you see the strongest signs of urgency today, if you see any of it at all, as we, again, end 25, going into 26? What seems more urgent than not?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Vince.
My pleasure.
It's great to be on the show, especially with Sara and Chris, so thank you. I would say, I don't know if it's urgency that I see. What I would say to you is there has been a huge demand for quality. We have seen, I think that and the high end has been the story, I think, of 2025.
Correct.
Luxury high end condos, new developments have been doing very well. So the answer would be the quality is what's important right now. I think that the buyers are out there and that's what's important to them. Lifestyle, the amenities, and really, I think that that's what people want. They want to walk into something that's turnkey, that is just, they can come in and everything is just brand new and just top level, high end, well done. And that's where you have seen the most activity.
I agree with that. I mean, I spent many, many years here at Brown Harris working in new development, and I know from an overall, buyer perspective, quality, brand new, amenities, always was the driving force. And I think, well, there were other kind of apartments out there too, pre-war, post-war, resale, whatever. But those buyers really wanted that. Quickly, though, we talked a little before air about cash still being king, and the high-end price point, I would say, equals that quality. So you're seeing a lot of that as well?
Yes, I would say that's the other. I think the two stories of 2025 is cash is king. So I don't know what the latest stats are, but I think 60% were cash deals this year.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. That's high. And I think that the quality, cash, new developments were the story, and the 4 million plus, the luxury high end. That's really what stood out for 2025.
Chris, in Connecticut, where you spend a lot of time and have seen the markets up there, for years, what are you seeing from an urgent perspective? Is there urgency? Is there not? Is it changing from 25 into 26? What is your perspective on that?
Well, again, thank you, Vince, for having me.
My pleasure.
I think talking about urgency in Connecticut, frankly, the market in Connecticut has had a sense of urgency even predating 2025. We have had the story of 2025 and the year prior is a lack of inventory. So I think the urgency lies within buyers who have had multiple bidding wars and lost out on things. And now when something comes on the market, it moves very quickly and often for over the asking price. So urgency remains in the buyer's motivation to actually buy a home. And that has pushed the area within Connecticut. Traditionally, Connecticut was as you moved further away from New York City. So starting in Greenwich and then moving your way further, east up the train line, things got more affordable as you went. But the average price point in all of those towns has risen so dramatically over the course of the last 12, 24 months that I think people are expanding their search because they're just desperate to be in the suburbs. And certainly with the, live work accommodations becoming a little bit more flexible, I think, the further away you are from the city is not as much of a deterrent as it once was. So, really any inventory, of course, the turnkey stuff has always been what I would call the most attractive, but frankly, just as a point of reference, the town of Darien, which is in the middle of our market, has approximately 6,000 houses in the town. There are 17 for sale right now.
Oh my
So you don't really have a choice. If you want a
That
house,
in and of
you
itself
have to
is creates urgency.
Yeah. So when we talk about price point, different price points, right?
Sure.
Just like here in Manhattan, is there any particular urgency assigned to different price points? Because I heard you say something before about bidding wars, and we would love to have that come back again here in New York. There are pockets of it here, yes.
Correct.
Right.
And that's good. But are you seeing a lot of that based on different price points, or is it like just kind of whatever's available at whatever price point, it's going to get out there?
It's basically universal. So the average list to sale price has been over 100% for north of 2 years now, which means obviously that there are a large majority of homes going into bidding wars. What has been interesting is that for a while, actually, the luxury market was slower. So there was not as much urgency, but that has dramatically changed in 2025. The number of sales above $5 million in Fairfield County, 2025 versus 2024 has doubled. So there's definitely a drive into luxury. We've seen in Greenwich, Connecticut, 2 sales over $40 million, which hasn't happened since COVID. So there's definitely this push into a luxury market.
I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned something about people still wanting the suburbs. I'm a suburban kid. I'm living in the city many years, but I'm from the suburbs in Westchester. So I get it, and I like it. But my question to you is, and you mentioned COVID also, during COVID, people were running to whether it was Long Island, the Hamptons, New York, Connecticut, Westchester. Are you still finding that desire to want to be in the burbs for the same reason, for schools, for more space, or is it just kind of something that people are migrating to because maybe the prices in New York City are too high?
Well, I mean, I do think that there's been a drive, obviously, since COVID, people wanting more space and the luxury. I mean, we were in the city and moved out of the city because, frankly, it's easy to open the back door and let the kids run out into the yard and the dogs. So there is a luxury to it that I think was kind of forgotten for a period of time and now has become more popular. The schools, particularly in Fairfield County, and all of the surrounding suburban markets you've talked about have, if anything, just improved and improved. So the quality of education has been fantastic.
Right.
So I do think that there is this attraction to the suburbs based on the fact that there is now, the infrastructure is there and is in place. All of the towns have seen a resurgence in restaurants and retail, and there's this, I think, because people are accommodating this outflux of people from the city who have expectations of a life experience that maybe wasn't there previously. And as that has happened, obviously the prices have been driven up. We used to classify the luxury market as 4 million plus. We now classify it as 5 million plus because average price points have pushed up. So now 4 million is more of like an average sale than it was, more a luxury sale in years past.
You mentioned education, and just to clarify, when we as agents are out there talking to clients, based on our fair housing rules, we can't talk about schools and stuff like that. But here, in this premise, we can. So my question to you is, are people running still to the burbs based on better schools, more school choices, or not?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, the great thing, speaking from Connecticut, there are great public schools in all of our towns.
Yeah.
I mean, in Fairfield County alone, you had the top 10 public high schools in the state of Connecticut, all in Fairfield County.
Yeah.
So that has become very popular. There's always been the draw, to the private school system. That's existed for, frankly, decades. But the quality of school has improved in Fairfield County, and that certainly is an attraction.
Sarah, let me ask you, so, when we talk about buyers, here in New York City, what is their expectation these days? I mean, you write a great report every week on the open house traffic and what that's all about. But what are buyers actually looking for right now from an expectation perspective, based on prices, based on interest rate, based on inventory, this time of the year, based on holiday? What am I doing? Baking a cake or going out and looking for for an apartment? I'm not a baker, so I'll look for an apartment. What are they looking at these days? What is their expectation?
What we're noticing, because we do track open house traffic every week, and we see a lot of data points. And I think the most important thing to buyers are two things. The new inventory.
Yeah.
It's almost 4 to 6 times the amount of traffic that you'll get to, a regular listing that's on the market. So the new inventory, but most important points are, like you said, it's turnkey and well-priced.
Yeah.
So anything that's well-priced, I think we did talk a bit about interest rates and a lot of, cash being out there. I still do think in New York City that is important, the affordability, the monthly costs, especially as rents have skyrocketed. You're getting a lot more buyers saying, well, maybe I should be looking to buy. And so they want something that's a bit more turnkey, move-in ready, and well-positioned in the market. They don't want to overpay.
Any particular price point, though, driving urgency, or is it kind of across the board based on what Itzy and you were saying before?
It's spotty. It's spotty because, you'll see a huge demand for townhouses, especially in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yes,
Sure.
and I think it's all over it's really all over the place. We do see in our reports studios are not in as high of demand, I think, because of the work from home aspect.
Yeah.
So the entry
Tell me,
level,
I'm struggling trying to sell one.
the 1 bedrooms, the 2 bedrooms, but we're also seeing larger spaces. They have high demand. So it's really, the demand is spread out, but I think within that, the most important pieces are how does it show online, in person, and how is it priced with relation to whatever else is on the market.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned townhouses or brownstones in Brooklyn. Now I'm hearing things like Manhattan and brownstone Brooklyn being called, right? And know because you worked in Brooklyn for years.
She lives there.
Brownstone Brooklyn, because that seems to be the leading, housing type that's moving. I mean, I've had people who are buying out there. Or know people who are buying out there, they just go off the market as quickly as they come on. Obviously, they're priced less if they even hit the market.
Yeah, I think, with Brooklyn is you can afford a townhouse in Brooklyn.
Correct.
Right? In Manhattan, a townhouse on the Upper East Side, you have to be at a certain level. There, you can get a townhouse for $5-6 million. So
almost
I think
a bargain. You want to say
I know,
almost a bargain, right?
It almost sounds ridiculous saying that,
But it's
and
true.
especially for listeners that are not in the New York City area.
But it's true.
But it's true,
Yeah.
and I think that lifestyle is appealing to people. To have, like you said, a backyard, you let the dog out, or a garden. The space, all of it. So
it's true.
And taxes are not through the roof in Brooklyn.
No, they're not.
They really are very
And Brooklyn's a wonderful place to live. Well, it's changing, sure, but Brooklyn's a wonderful place to live.
It is.
And I've said for years, 30 years ago when I decided to move here, if I knew Brooklyn better then, I probably would have gone there first and probably would have stayed there because I absolutely love it there.
There's a lot of green space. People appreciate
Oh,
that
my
more
God.
and more
Green
now.
spaces.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of both green and city, and it's easy to commute to.
Best of all worlds. Yeah.
Itzy, so we talked a little bit about inventory, in all areas of our marketplace here. What is really causing the scarcity of the inventory in our New York City marketplace? I mean, is it because sellers don't want to sell because of interest rate on their end? I think Chris said this before the show started, that, or maybe on the show, excuse me, sellers are concerned about the interest rates as much as the buyer is. So what is really causing the scarcity of, I mean, I remember when you took a buyer out for the first time, second time, third time, you had 10 and 15 apartments to show them in a day. You had to hire a car service, right? I miss those days.
I know.
Where do they go?
Yeah, I think, I think what we're seeing is the sellers who have these lower interest rates, if they sell, they're going to have to go into a 6% rate or something. So
Correct.
I think that plays into it. We do have the scarcity, as I was saying actually earlier before the show, I think that's going to be a big story for 2026 is the lack of inventory, because I think the demand is there with the buyers. I feel it, I see it, but I would say that's probably one of the big reasons is the rates that people are locked into, and they just don't want to walk away from that. Where do they go? If they leave, where do they go? So, but people are still selling. Life changes. People are getting married, having babies, retiring. So I don't think, that, is going to mean that there's nothing. But I think that's also, why the new condos and the new developments are doing well, because that's what's coming onto the market. That's the product that we're seeing, which is also meeting the demands of today's buyer, right? So to answer your question, I think the scarcity is probably tied a lot to the interest rate.
Yeah. Chris, in Connecticut, pretty much the same thing. You've alluded to inventory a couple of times. In one of the things that amazed me is 17 homes in Darien out of however many.
6,000.
6,000.
That's unbelievable.
That's unbelievable.
That's like, oh my God. So if someone wants to move to Darien or in a town just like that, because Darien happens to be beautiful, what are they doing? And where are they going? Are they sitting back on the sideline waiting for that next one to pop up and then jumping on it with 5 or 10 or 15 other people? Where are they going?
They are, for the most part, sitting on the sidelines waiting. I mean, I can think of one example in Westport where our buyer got the 21st house they bid on. So you're in competition all of the time. And obviously your standards change over the course of your experience in putting, bids in on houses. Eventually you kind of have to take what's available. So people are constantly paying attention to inventory. I mean, it's not like we have a glut of inventory that rolls on every day or every week. I mean, you're talking about 1, 2 houses. So if you're not paying attention, you miss the mark. I mean, houses sell in basically under 7 days. If they don't sell in under 7 days, they're grossly mispriced.
Correct.
So
and there's always going to be that, even here in New York City. Some seller's going to want much more than it's worth. Boy, I tell you something, people say to me all the time before we go to break here, how could you do a show for all of these years and not run out of things to do? How could you or talk about? I'm like, well, I just learned a whole bunch of stuff right here this morning. So we never run out of things to talk about because life changes, things change. And I don't look like this on purpose. In any event, we're coming right back after these messages. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. We will be right back.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Infinity. Guaranteed Rate Infinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners, from a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing. My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
From residential and commercial closings to litigation, Romer DeBoss is your full-service real estate law firm. We blend big firm knowledge with boutique-level attention, delivering outcomes that exceed every expectation. Contact us at romerdeboss.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. Block number 2. So, keeping our conversation on inventory, Sara, when you're talking to your agents, throughout the day, the week, whatever, is there any particular building type or neighborhood within the New York City, selling realm that is more restricted or constricted than not, or is it just kind of across the board where inventory in general is like soft?
I don't think inventory is super soft. It's spotty. So like if you have anything in the West Village, in Greenwich Village, as long as it's well priced, that's selling. So I think agents and sellers have to be really careful in post-war buildings that are more cookie cutter, where they kind of all look the same. They don't have that character and that draw. So I think that's where agents and owners have to be very careful about how they price, how they position. And so, again, it's really kind of across the board, all about desirability and how things look now more than ever is super important.
Yeah. Itzy, so based on what Sara just said, sellers oftentimes make mistakes when it comes to pricing or pricing strategies. Again, in talking to, folks, here at Brown Harris Stevens, what are some of the mistakes that sellers are making in their pricing strategies? And I always like to say, are they listening to what their consultant agent is trying to tell them from a market perspective, from a knowledge perspective, from an expert perspective, like, yeah, this will work, this will not work? What kind of stuff are you hearing, back at the ranch?
I'm hearing a little bit of all of it.
Yeah.
So I think there are some sellers that really are guided by their brokers and will listen and
Correct.
do what they say. If they say you need to, move this, change this, paint this, price here. And those are the properties that do sell. I think there are the sellers that have ambitious desires and say, well, let's just try for this price. If not, we can lower it. And I think Sara has mentioned more than once well-priced properties. And I think it's really key to understand the market, listen to your broker, because the properties, you don't want to chase the market down. And that is a terrible place and a terrible position to
Correct.
be in.
It does not look good for anybody.
I think that there are the sellers that say, well, let's put it out there, and if it doesn't sell at this price, we can try. Or the seller, and back to actually your question on inventory, I think there are sellers out there that are scared that they're not going to get the price that they want because of the mortgage rates, so they don't want to put it on the market because they want to get a certain price point. So I think they're holding back for that reason too.
I have a
that's all
seller, we're
psychology.
$100,000 off. I told them what it's going to sell for. It's a 2-bedroom, and they want 1.4 something, and I'm like, no, 1.3 or 1.2 something. And it's a tug of war. It's been now a 2-week conversation.
It's tough. I think sellers,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
I
can be
can't-
guided by emotion too
Oh.
often.
Yes.
And
Well,
that's
I
really,
paid
and
this, or I
sentiment.
did this kind of work, and,
exactly. Listen, I paid X amount for a stock. The market is the market. So the buyers are only going to buy what the market dictates. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind. And in the very beginning, we always talk about like the first 10 days is like the critical period.
Yeah.
That's when you get the most eyes on any listing, and that's when that's your opportunity to get the highest price possible, not chase it down,
Correct.
unfortunately. There's also a rule, 30 days or 30 people. I think especially in your market, much shorter than
That's for
30
sure.
days
That's for
and
sure.
much shorter, less than
Oh, my
30
God.
people.
I think
You just know right
Yes.
away.
Yeah.
And I think we're not in a market that you have to be priced correctly.
Yes.
We are not in a market to test the price of your property. And I think that actually I would say to buyers out there right now, if there's something that's sitting on the market, make offers.
Go make an
Go
offer.
make an
Especially this
offer
time of year.
This time of year.
Yeah.
And
Go
to the
make an offer.
sellers, listen. Look, even if you don't want to listen to the broker, look at the data.
That's
You
it.
know what?
Right.
Look
Numbers
at
don't
the
lie.
data. The numbers don't lie. And it is so key. Like Sara said, the first 10 days are the most important days. You want to come out strong.
Yeah.
You want to show. Also, people want. They desire the things that if they see a ton of people at an open
Yes.
house or there's the interest, then you create more of a desire and
100%.
I want what I can't have, or everybody wants this versus, you see one person there, you think there's no interest.
Yep.
So I think you just really need to price things right and listen to the broker, and also the way you present the property. I think more than ever, that's also equally important. So really out of the gate, showcasing the property to the best of your ability, whether it's staging,
I couldn't agree more.
decluttering, painting, whatever it might be. People want to walk into, just like we were talking earlier, people want turnkey, even if you don't have that product, but you have a nice home, just, prepare it, listen to the broker and do what it takes to, just make it look as beautiful as possible.
I mean, there's a reason why Instagram is as popular as it
Yeah,
is, because everything is
exactly. Yes.
aspirational
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
beautiful. And so that is unconsciously,
Very
I think,
true.
what people are expecting when they walk in the door.
exactly.
Right? I want to live like this.
Exactly.
That's
And
still
to your point, Instagram has really taken
Yeah.
over real estate, in my opinion.
Yes.
It's all over the place, or TikTok now as well. So
Yeah.
you got to do it right and make it present well.
Yeah.
Even in Connecticut, that's the way that it is.
Of
With
course.
such limited inventory, you'd think that people could just price aspirationally and things would move and they could care less about the quality, but it is still so much. It needs to look like someone can bring their toothbrush in and move in.
Right.
And if you price aspirationally, to use Sarah's word, like people now have access to good agents and data and know that even though the market is on the rise, that there is a limit to what something's worth in any given moment.
Oh my God.
100%.
And I always say, even when I'm teaching continuing ed, look, it's up to us. We're the consultant. We're the expert. You have to learn, and I've said this about a lot of different things that have gone on in our business this year. We have to learn how to negotiate better than ever before. We have to learn how to communicate with our clients, buyer or seller, better than ever before, because they have questions that maybe they never had before, especially with all these new rules that we're dealing with.
Yeah,
and we
there's a
have to
lot.
be able to explain,
Yeah.
you know, from our perspective, and still maintain why I am your expert or I am your consultant. And trust me, that T word, as I say all the time, that T word is really what drives our business. When you're talking to sellers in Connecticut, Chris, or your people are, you know, again, we talked about the mistakes here. Sarah mentions aspirational. Are there still sellers, because I know they exist here in New York, and I'm dealing with a bunch of them right now, that say, well, you know what, I think I'll wait out the market because I really, really, really need to get that extra $100,000 or that $50,000, whatever the number is, more. So I think I'll wait it out. But what they don't understand sometimes is, you know, you could watch as the market starts to go like this,
Yeah.
and waiting it out is only going to give you less money than I'm telling you today.
Yes,
Fact?
I mean that definitely is the case. I mean we have had sellers, sit on the sideline because if you look at year-over-year appreciation in value, I mean it's been so significant for such a long time that I think people get greedy and think, well, if I waited out another 6 months and the market gained 10% last year, that's a lot more money in my pocket. And to your point, nobody really knows when that turn is, and inevitably it's coming. Markets ebb and flow. That's just the nature of real estate. So there's a point in which you can make a good financial decision and capitalize on, your improved value. And there's a point in which you can just get greedy and sit and hope for more. And what we are telling people is every situation is different. And if you wait, we can't predict what's going to happen.
No.
But I can tell you what's happening in the market right now. And I can tell you your property, for the most part, is likely worth more than it was. So you have a gain to realize.
Right now is the optimal word. It's like right now. And as Itzy said before, especially this time of the year, right? If you see something that's on the market for a long time,
Make an offer.
Go and make an offer.
Yeah.
And
It's an
there's an
opportunity.
opportunity there
Yes.
that can really work in your favor. Let's talk a little bit about buyer behavior. Sarah, I love your open house report. I look at it every week. And my question is, when we're talking about buyer behavior, are they acting strategic today? Because we can say that the visitation, per unit, per open house, per day, whatever, has down significantly. So is that because they're strategically waiting for something or deciding, well, I don't really need to go to open house, or maybe I should go to open house? What is the driving motivation behind them these days? I mean, listen, I remember the days where I would host an open house and I'd have 25 people come through and it would be like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you probably would get an offer or two or whatever. Today, it's kind of like either you get no visitation or you get maybe one or maybe three.
Yeah.
What's happening?
I think what's happening right now is that buyers are very discerning and they value their time as they should. And they're really, you don't have as many tire kickers. You'll always have tire kickers coming in, feeling out the market, previewing, that's fine. But if they have to schedule appointments, which half of our agents host open houses where you have to schedule an actual appointment. So I think that accessibility has changed a lot in our market since COVID. So you don't see those big numbers like you used to see previous to COVID. So that's number one. And I think buyers are more informed, and with rates not being so compelling, they're more discerning and they're thinking, this is an investment and I want to make sure that I'm putting my money into the right place. This is my home and I just want to make sure that I'm making the right decision and the right choice. I don't feel this tremendous sense of urgency, the opposite in some parts of our market, I'm finding, and our agents are telling us, that buyers and sellers are just very reactive and thinking, okay, this didn't go my way, I'm out. So there is a fair amount of that. And I think what's driving that is that lack of urgency based on either the market going up and you want to make sure that you get in before things go up even more. That's in New York City. And because rates are not low enough for them to say, oh my God, this is so much better than my rental. Let me get out of my rental and buy.
How about in Connecticut, Chris? Open house. I mean, obviously limited inventory. When something comes on the market, it goes quickly. But are there still a lot of open houses in Connecticut in all the regions up there? And are they heavily attended or not?
So the way that we are telling our agents to run a new listing is basically put it on Tuesday as a preview.
Correct.
Broker open Thursday, public Saturday, Sunday. If you don't have an offer by the end of the day Sunday, you've already overpriced it because open house traffic is that heavy. I mean, I think
efficient.
It is, and not everybody accepts that as the truth, but that is how we are seeing people sell successfully and do it quickly. So open house traffic has definitely been up, and I think because the market is so efficient, you don't have time to maybe necessarily schedule an appointment, and your window of opportunity is within those 3 hours on the weekend. So barring obviously not being able to attend because you're not in town, open house traffic is and has been very heavy.
Itzy, when I first became a real estate agent 23 years ago, we were very seasonal in when we put apartments on the market, when we wanted to strategically place something wherever. I remember, during certain periods like now, you never listed a brand new listing. You waited until January of the spring market coming out, whatever. Is seasonal placement of inventory still a thing today, or is it kind of like whenever it's ready, just get it out there and try and sell it?
I think that it's funny. The seasonality was very real for us. And then I
real.
noticed for several years that went away entirely. I do see it coming back to some degree again, where like we saw the fall market, everyone was waiting for new inventory to come on. But what I'm noticing is that there are some sellers that want to get on right now. And there's conversations where the brokers are like, well, it's the holidays. Are you sure? And then so it's yes and no. So it's hard to answer because I think that I don't think the seasonality like we used to see it. It was very cut and dry. The spring and fall markets, like summer, no one put anything on. Winter, no one put anything on. That one has gone away for a while. But still, I felt like this time of year, people would hold back in mid-December and wait till January. Where right now, I'm hearing from a lot of the brokers that their sellers are saying, no, put it on now. I want to get it on immediately for some reason. So I think that the seasonality that you're talking about 23 years ago has definitely gone away. But I do still see a little bit, you still see the big uptick in the spring and fall, but there's the conversations around don't put it on now, wait, that's kind of going away because it's being dictated by what the seller wants. Look, at the end of the day, it's really all about what your seller's wants, needs are, and what is best for them. And for whatever reason, if someone says, look, I want it on the market now, then you do it. You listen,
Listen, I remember years, where Christmas week and Hanukkah week was always like a mad dash rush. I think we talked about it before the show. Get stuff done before the month ends because whatever. To close it out for this particular end of year for tax purposes. So it used to be very hectic. I mean, I think for years and years, I always had a negotiation going on Christmas Eve or some kind of, deal sheet needing to be done on Christmas Eve. Always something around the holiday. I don't see a lot of that lately, but some of it still exists.
You just brought up, I remember last December.
Yes, it was crazy.
Yes, it was.
It was the
insane.
busiest December I've had my entire career, and it's been over 20 years.
That's correct.
I remember last December, and talking to Sarah, and because mentally you're like, oh, this is the time
we
where
want to shut down.
No,
you
just
no such thing.
And we were like, this. It was just so busy.
Real estate reminds you can't shut down.
I had a very good friend who was working with an agent in this office for something up to $25 million and couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
And this was in December.
Yeah.
And so I was like, are they missing something? There was nothing on the market. And I think that was very driven by the stock market,
Yep.
cryptocurrency, people wanting to cash out of those assets and
Yep.
purchase hard assets.
Yep.
So that was wild
What,
at the end
December
of
last year.
oh my
And
God.
you just saw, if you saw on the Olsen report, they had last week was over 30. I mean, so
31 deals.
Yeah.
I think it was.
31
Yeah.
deals. So
Yeah.
I think that's the question to the seasonality is we're busy
We are.
in December. So
We
it's
are.
kind of
we are.
it's not there anymore like it used to be.
I have more showing requests this month than I had the last 2 months.
Yeah.
All in the last 2 weeks
Yeah.
actually of December. It's wild, but
picked up a
hey,
lot.
listen, we'll take it. You know,
Yeah.
it is what
So
it is.
get out
I think
there.
Connecticut
get out
is a
there.
little bit more traditional in the
imagine.
sense
Yeah, I
that
would
there
say,
is still
yeah.
seasonality
Yeah.
to it.
There is.
Yeah, I mean,
And so what would be the busiest season then?
we're still very much driven by spring market and fall market.
Yeah.
Got
And
it.
the summers are slow, and I think a lot of it is driven by the fact that most of our, occupants or demographic within the suburbs are families. For
Correct.
obviously there are exceptions to the rule, and there's everybody and anybody, but kids are home from school in December, kids are home from school in the summer, and there is this, things are happening in life that are not real estate. There are more listings outside of what our traditional seasons are, but it's not as, like a 365 day market where things come on all the time. There's definitely still some seasonality in Connecticut.
Curious
So
if Sarah
jealous
thinks
of you.
the same thing on the seasonality. No, I was just curious if you see the same thing I do with like the season and what you're
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I'm also noticing, this was so interesting on Thanksgiving this year, was the quietest Thanksgiving I remember since COVID, when we really had more defined markets. And even like our friend groups, chat groups, no one texted each other. It was really quiet. And I think
You're right
people
about
are
that.
right.
Yeah.
You're right about
Right?
that. Oh,
Like
I
our
didn't
friend
really think
group,
about
we
that.
didn't.
Yeah,
And I
that's
said,
true.
you know what?
Right.
I'm not going to text them. Everybody wants a
Right.
break from their phones. There's
I didn't
so
even-
much overstimulation in our
Yes.
world right now that we're all craving a break. So
Another
Thanksgiving
martini.
was that.
Another martini. Oh, wait
exactly.
to hear about the show Vince
Yes,
is having for us.
exactly. We can't
he
wait
said
for
he
that.
promised us martinis.
Another
So
martini. That's going to happen.
Okay.
Exactly. So,
But you're right.
yeah.
I didn't really think about
Yeah.
that. But now
Wasn't
that you're
it
saying
super quiet?
Yeah, you're
Yes.
right, Sarah. I
Everyone
didn't think about
wanted.
that.
I didn't have one other than Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
But even they
Yeah.
were starting
Yep.
2 weeks
Oh,
earlier.
yeah, they started
They started a lot earlier because I think people understand the psychology. Like, we need a break. It's really important. So for our brokers that are out there, take whatever you can whenever you can, because it's important to really reset, recharge, so you can think more clearly and be a better advocate for your clients rather than being rushed all the time.
100%. Anyway, we're going to take another quick break. We're coming right back for our
Take a break.
Take a break.
That's perfect.
We will be right back after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Dylan Pachulik, CEO of XL Real Property Management, New York's most trusted name in luxury property management since 2012. We specialize in managing individual apartments, townhouses, and rental buildings held by absentee owners. We maintain our properties with the highest standards of quality and service so that owners can choose a hassle-free approach to real estate investing. Rented or owner-occupied, we handle it all. For more information, contact us at xl-rpm.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. So let's talk a little bit about remote work and how, post-COVID, we all were kind of chained to our apartments and I really hate that whole working from home situation. I'm getting a little cuckoo with it. But, the bottom line is how many buyers out there are still kind of clinging to that, maybe not wanting to move just yet because, well, I don't really know what the future is for my job or for, whatever. So I think I'm going to stick around. As you indicated earlier, Sarah, the rental market's booming and the prices are sky high. I mean, I look at prices for one bedrooms and studios. I don't even know how these young folk are
Yeah.
affording
Yeah.
it.
I wonder the same
For
thing.
sure.
The rents are insane.
And they don't seem to mind.
No.
They just don't seem to mind. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, things have changed since I was that age.
Yeah, I know.
Whatever. Lots of big
So
money out there.
It says a lot about our city. People want to be here, and they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
And they're willing to, and,
Yeah.
and that's the good thing. But is it kind of influencing movement in our buyer mentality at all, or is it
I
kind of
think
just
so.
saying,
Yeah.
you know?
I do.
yeah.
I think it reaches a certain point. And what I'm noticing, Chris, you were talking about this earlier, about, people leaving the city for more space, quality of life. What I'm also noticing that the work from home affords people the ability to have the best of both. So I'll take myself as an example. I consider New York City and the Hamptons as my two primary residences. And we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of people that migrated to the suburbs or outside of the city that want to come back to the city for culture, for energy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they're able to do both because they have that flexibility where they're not entirely working from home, because a lot of companies have brought everybody back, but there is a hybrid schedule that we're seeing that I think gives everyone that flexibility. So it's really nice to see that, actually.
I agree. Are there stats, and I don't really know, back to the COVID days, Chris, for people who maybe moved up to Connecticut or Westchester or the suburbs?
Sure.
Is there a stat on how many people may have come back? I mean, we all said back in the day, 2021, 22, a lot of people were coming back, but it seems to me like a lot of people came back, but there are a lot of people who stayed as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not necessarily a stat, but just to look at what I look at is the train parking lot. And
Oh, yes.
because
That's
obviously
so
people are
Yes.
taking, the train line into the city. And what's interesting, obviously prior to COVID, they were empty. And if you look at the town that I'm in, Southport, a lot of people dropped their monthly passes because if you were going in, occasionally you could pay for the day pass. That has definitely shifted. There are days, particularly Monday and Friday, where the train parking lot is a lot emptier because I think people still have a hybrid and are taking the shoulder days off to work from home.
Right.
But, Tuesday through Thursday, the lots are full again. So I think people are coming back into the city, but in a way that allows them to still work from home part-time while still being in a corporate setting, the balance of the week.
Itzy, and I'm sure you'll agree. I mean, I've noticed in the last couple of years the traffic in this town is insane. So I look back and say, well, because as you said a little while ago, this is New York City. Everybody wants to be here. And it's true, whether you're living here or working here or living and working here, this town is, just bubbling over with people wanting to be here. How do you think going into next year that may help our activity or stimulate more people, if these people are even interested in real estate? I'm just assuming, I'd like to assume that they are. Maybe they're not. But do you think it's going to have anything to do with future business in New York? It seems like no one wants to leave here.
Yeah, no, well, first of all, let's
And that's
talk.
good.
I can talk to the traffic because I drive every day, and the traffic is insane, and especially right now because
Terrible.
I think it's December and the city couldn't be more beautiful with the lights everywhere and the holidays,
It is
and it
very
feels
beautiful.
festive. I will also say because I have and. Culturally, people are really they want all of that, like looking for the Knicks game, the ballet, the Broadway, all of this stuff. And I say the Knicks because my son wants to go to the Knicks game. I've been looking at tickets.
Take them.
They're fortunate.
They are a
Everything's
fortune.
fortunate.
They're a
I think
fortune.
that,
People, it's packed.
But it's packed.
Yes, it
This
is.
is my point. What I want to say is everybody wants to be here,
Yeah.
and they want everything that New York City brings with it. They want to go to Broadway shows. They want to go to the ballet. They want to go to the Knicks or the Nets or whatever sporting event is happening. All of that, and everything's packed, and everything's also expensive. But at the restaurants, they're packed. Try to get a table somewhere. You
Can't get a table at 5:30,
Yeah.
and that used to be
You
the
cannot.
no-brainer.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
Go
you want to go
early.
somewhere, go
Yeah.
5:30.
Go early.
Now it's 9:30.
Action packed. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And prices are so up, right? And you think, how are they doing this?
Exactly.
I think really the most important thing, though, for the city, safety. That was what, everyone was really uneasy, myself included, walking home during COVID. It was it was scary for
Yes,
me
it
at
was.
times, at night, in the winter especially. The city has gotten much, much cleaner and
Yes.
feels safer, right?
does,
Don't you
yes,
feel like people are
100%.
more confident?
Yes.
But I do think everyone has a watchful eye on, will things continue to improve? How will things be? And that, for any major city, safety is key.
Yeah, I feel the same thing. I feel much more safe. I don't feel like I have to look over my
Yes.
shoulder as
Right.
much as I did for a while.
Yes.
And that makes me feel good as a resident New Yorker here for 100 years. And I like that feeling. And when I can talk to clients about that, especially buyers who are coming here for the first time, want to be here, but don't really understand what's happening. And of course, they read the news, crime,
Right.
Yes.
and crime, and people getting pushed in front of subways. And I'm like,
Yes,
well,
that
you know
was-
what? Let's take it for what it really is,
Yeah.
okay? And you got to go there. Let's talk a little bit about financing trends. Arms, buy downs, cash activity. You know, for a while, we were trying to incent sellers to sell. And maybe give some cash incentives to buyers. Itzy, are you seeing that shaping any kind of behavior still today? Is that still something that's happening based on what you hear from agents here at BHS, or is it something that's kind of passed? I mean, I know ARMs are pretty popular, but what about the buy downs and the cash incentives at closing?
Yeah, I'm not really seeing any of that.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
not
know
either.
if
Same.
Sarah,
No.
I'm not really seeing any
I'm
of
not
that
either.
and hearing about that at all. And I think, I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I think that people have settled into the fact that the rates are in the sixes and they can get around that, and they've accepted it. And now it's more a matter of finding the right property. Like we mentioned earlier, 60% are cash deals, but the other 40% are financing.
Exactly.
And I think that it's fine. They've accepted it. And I think it's I think looking at 2026, and I don't even know if I fully answered your last question, but I still see the big demand here. I think people are going to be, coming to New York. I mean, New York City is, the capital of the world, right? I think that's never going to change. I mean, everyone in the world wants to come to New York. Living here is such a privilege. I mean, to have access to all the culture and
It's
the
a privilege.
diversity
Yeah.
that we have in New York City. It's a really special place. I mean, the energy here, you don't have that anywhere else.
Giving me goosebumps. It's so
right?
true. I
But-
feel
but
so
it's so
grateful to
true.
live
And
here.
it's the
It's
largest
like
so
cultural
true.
melting pot
Yes,
in the
it
world.
is.
And
That's what I love
addition to
most
everything else,
about
right?
it.
I
It's the best.
You can't get enough of
You
it.
can't get
No.
enough of it. And so
It's like this beautiful mixed salad. That's what I always
Oh,
call
I
it.
love that.
Beautiful mixed salad.
So let's do some
Get
martinis
everything.
and mixed salad for
There
your
you
next
go.
show, Vince. Martinis and mixed
There
salad.
you go. With croutons.
Yes.
Yes.
But you're right.
Yeah, I think so. With the buyers, I think they have settled into what the rate is. What the rate is. I mean, and I think any movement downward, it will be huge for
I
us,
agree.
and you will see a big uptick.
And I think we may see that in the coming year.
I think so
agree.
too.
I think I was talking to Stephen Lasher at our last meeting, and he's so funny anyway from Wells Fargo.
I
but
love Stephen.
I do too. But he's always candid.
Yeah,
He's
he
always
does,
candid.
yeah.
And I went to the
He always
Revney
says
thing recently
candidly.
too, and he was a panel member up there, and he did the same candidly.
Candidly. That's his favorite
But I
word.
think we're going to see some of that movement
Yep.
down, and that will completely ignite
I think so.
I
our
too.
agree.
inventory. And I do see that happening in 26. So let's go to 2026
Right.
and talk about, our predictions, not our wish list kind of, because I think they kind of go together, but what do we see based on where we've come? And I'm going to say the last 2 years, okay? Because the last 2 years have really not been great, from a buyer perspective, seller perspective. Sarah, what do you see potentially happening into the next year? Whether rates come down a little bit, whether inventory gets a little better. What are you predicting?
Going back to how Itzy started the show, I think it's going to be all about inventory.
Yeah.
I think that inventory will be.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that because I think demand is up finally. Like I was saying, like confidence is there. People have settled into the rates. People are and the city is doing great. So I think we're on a good trajectory momentum wise, but we can never foresee, events, economic.
Right.
That is the biggest wild card.
Correct.
So, and it was for us this year. We were doing great, and then Liberation Day kind of killed the momentum. So we don't know what's ahead, and I think that's what's in people's minds. But it's a little quieter right now. So I think we're going to go into the year with more buyer confidence, motivation, and that's going to mean inventory. And I'm just going to say something controversial. Well, maybe it is or not, but don't put your stuff off the market unless the owner absolutely wants privacy. Get your stuff out there.
For sure.
In a tight inventory market, you're only doing yourself a disservice or your client a disservice if you don't put it out to the masses. And that I think that that's going to be very important next year.
I agree.
That's great. I agree.
I mean, I think, more than anything.
It's common sense.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. How like the narrative that's out there that like, okay, off market is a good thing, only unless an owner wants that.
Yes.
That's fine.
Now
As
that
it
you bring
should
that up,
be.
I want to add.
Sorry.
No, because I
just
also
have to say it.
Make it juicy. Let's add some
Yes.
juicy stuff.
Stir up that martini.
blue cheese olive. But I agree with you. And off market
So
to
do
me
I.
just doesn't really make sense.
No.
Who knows about it? You can have the biggest network of friends in the business and all, but unless you get it out there to the buyer community, who knows it?
That's right.
Yeah.
And I don't really see I never saw a benefit of that. I also don't understand why a seller would agree to that.
It's actually
Do you see that in your
become
territory?
Oh, yeah.
pretty popular in Connecticut. And I think it is being, unfortunately, led by not all agents. I think a lot of agents see their role and their fiduciary responsibility to the seller to get them the best possible number, but there are some other agents who want to sell this off-market, listing opportunity. And we have had, just to give you an example, back to Darien, we knew of an off-market listing where the listing agent was bringing her own buyer. It was a $4 million home. We had a buyer who was willing to pay $4.4 million. We couldn't actually get the offer to the seller. Found out who the attorney was and submitted the offer directly to the attorney. And this seller, had they listened to their agent, would have
Smart
shorted
strategy.
themselves 10%.
10% at
Yeah.
$4 million.
You just don't
That is
know.
criminal.
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
there
It's so
is a lot of that happening, and I think it is to the detriment, to the seller and what their potential is, to buyers who don't have the opportunity to see what is already a very limited inventory pool.
Yeah.
And it's hard to report on these off-market sales. So what does that mean for average sale price and the number of
Right,
transactions?
and the data is all skewed because you don't have that information that you can share with future sellers or buyers going forward. I'm an agent here at Brown Harris Stevens and love my job. These guys are all managers, so what I want to ask is, from an agent perspective. Over the last couple of years, we've needed a lot of counseling with, hey, this market is killing us. What are we doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I've 23 years and I forgot how to do everything. And I haven't, but sometimes you feel that way. Itzy, when people come to you and say, what's happening? How do you get them back on track? Because I think it's important for agents who are listening out there to understand this is not doom and gloom. It's a little bump in the road. And sometimes the bump lasts a little longer than other times, but it will be corrected.
Yeah.
How do you get people to feel better about themselves based on all of that?
Okay. Well, first of all, one thing I will say, which people may or may not know, but I speak to a lot of agents. Every agent, even the best top agents that do well every year, they always think that's it. Next year, I'm going to do nothing.
Yes.
There's going to be no business.
This is very
I
true.
mean, there's one agent in particular, I remember having sitting down with her last year, and she had a great year, did very well. And she's like, I have nothing in the pipeline. I don't know what's going to happen. And she surpassed this year. She surpassed by a lot, did
Thank
over.
God. Thank God.
And I think that, part of our jobs is really we're coaches.
Yeah.
We are psychologists. We're, all of it. And I sit with the agents and I let them feel what they're feeling and I listen. And then I tell them, I remind them who they are. I remind them to believe in themselves. And I remind them a lot of times it's not even a magic thing. It's just doing the basics. Do what you do best is connect with people. It's a relationship business. So just, it's an interesting question because I think that people don't realize that all the agents think that they're going to this is it. This is their last year, and next year it's going to be, the worst. And I haven't. And some agents have great years and bad years, but they all need help.
But you use the word that I mean, just love and talk about all the time, relationship business. If you lose sight of the word relationship in what we do every day, because I hate, and these guys have heard me talk about it every show, I hate that word transactional, okay,
Yes.
when you want to compare it to relationship, because relationship is what gives you that next gig.
Well, and
Right.
so yeah, I agree. And so to answer your question, I think each agent needs something different. So the talk and the advice I give them is really based on that agent.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
what's going on with them,
Yeah.
it's like, and then we look at their business and let's talk about it, and where, the years that you have been the most successful, what'd you do? Do that again.
Right.
What are you doing to grow your business? What are you doing to connect with people? I think what I'm noticing a lot this year is people are getting back out and going out and seeing each other, which I felt that was not
That
happening
is
for
that is
a
happening
while.
again. Yes.
I think people were
Yep.
they don't talk to anybody. They don't see
Yeah.
people. They text or they email. And I noticed that people are, and this is something I've been driving home, get out and call someone and meet them for a coffee or for a martini.
Right.
Whatever.
There's
I
one
think-
thing I want to add,
Yeah.
and you talked about this
Yeah.
being a relationship business with an emphasis on relationship, but
Yeah.
I also want to put some emphasis on the word business. And I think
Oh, absolutely.
oftentimes agents forget the fact that they are running their own business. And, I was an agent for a long time, and maybe not all agents do this, but what we have been coaching agents is who have struggled and, with limited inventory, transaction volume way down, is to actually think about this as a business and to have a plan rather than to just go out there and
100%.
hope that
Yeah,
you can
agreed.
connect.
Yeah.
100%.
So we've been doing 30, 60, 90s. We've been actually going back to people putting down business plans, thinking about what they're going to invest from a marketing perspective, because in this business, you have to spend money to make money. I mean, there are a few exceptions who have exceptional
do.
Rolodexes
You
and it
do.
snowballs.
You do.
Of
But
course.
this is a business and you need to be willing to invest in yourself, and you need to have a plan, frankly. You can't just rely on the fact that, things are going to fall into place.
That is so well said, and it brings me back to my corporate days. When I was working at IBM and other technology companies before real estate, we had to have a plan. We had to have a business plan. It had to be updated every year, and you had to talk to your manager about it. And you did your quota this year, last year. This year it's going to be even higher.
Right.
So you need to figure out how you
you're
can do
gonna
it.
do
It's the
that.
same
Yeah.
in our real estate business, and I know you talk and counsel and coach all of us all the time. Any perspective you want to give us on what or how you get agents to feel a lot better about where they are today and how they could get better tomorrow?
Well, I think Itzy and Chris really touched on all the points. It's like meeting the person where they are
Yeah.
and talking to them about, because we know, what makes a lot of people tick. But I think it's really about doubling down on what worked, what didn't work. But a lot of the times I think it's this panic that somebody goes into. And I used to feel that way.
Agents panicking.
How am I going to do it again?
Yeah,
How am I going to do it
yes,
again?
yes, how am I gonna
So
do it
I
again?
think it's like my mom always used to say when I was overwhelmed, like cleaning my room, she would always say, start in a corner and work your way out. Start with something that you can manage well, and then build on the momentum. Just get started, and start small, start with something. And I think it's going back to the basics. It's all about people. It's about looking at product and knowing everything about your market.
Yeah.
Knowing everything about the market. I was going to say that too. Learn the product. We sell product,
Yes.
right? And we sell a lot of things. And so we got to learn the product, be credible, be factual, be knowledgeable, because that's when you get that T word again. The client needs to trust you, and they do that when you know something.
What I want to say to add to your point, Sarah, is the buyers and sellers of today are very well informed.
Yes.
They
Very.
they might have another job, but they spend all day on whatever website. They'll know about things before you.
Really?
Yeah. So I
Yes,
think
they
that
do.
more than ever, you have to know
Oh my God.
the market. You have to know the buildings. You have to know your craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You cannot just, say,
Wing it.
let's go here. Here are some things we're going to look at. You have to know, you have to be on it, because both on the buy side and the sell side, they are knowledgeable. They have
100%.
access to it. When I started in the business, we would take out ads in the New York Times, and that they didn't have access to anything. Data is out there. So you have to, really, like you said, be the trusted advisor, but you have to know what you're talking about. So I would say, if nothing else, just get out there and make sure that you see the product. You mentioned this, Sarah, and that you know what's happening in the market.
Correct. I mean, I think that's so important. There's so much information out there, but to not only know the product, but to know the market trends, because you go to a party and the whole thing is relationship based. There's not a single cocktail holiday party that I have been to where someone hasn't asked me what's going on in the real estate market. People look to you as a trusted advisor, and when you can't even talk about, you know, the 5 bullet points of what's happened in the last month, people know this information. So even if you can't reinforce what they already know, you know, God forbid, add to it, which is what the hope is. People are looking to you as a trusted advisor. I mean, we've been telling agents that all the time. Read your market reports. Listen to shows like this. I mean, I think it's so important for you to be able to add value to the conversation.
Knowledge. What's the expression? Knowledge is power.
Can I just add something?
Sure.
You know, as you guys are talking, I'm thinking there is so much information out there, and there's AI. So we have to also focus on what robots can't do, which is manage personalities. That's a huge part of our business. The negotiations, you have to sharpen your skills on negotiations. You should be really in tuned into emotional intelligence and how to navigate difficult situations, because technology cannot do that. And that's, I think, our very spoken contribution
100%.
to the transaction. People don't really, you don't see that on the network television reality shows. It's how much we are therapists, you know, to our clients.
All right, you know, unfortunately, we are so out of time. I could go another hour here because this was terrific, but they will all be back in January or February. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back with my final thoughts right after these messages.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my final thoughts. So, ultimately, urgency in New York City and Connecticut, real estate corridor, is not disappearing, it's evolving. Both markets are shaped by selective competition, disciplined buyers and sellers who might align more closely with market realities. New York City's urgency emerges in well-positioned inventory and value-driven opportunities, while Connecticut urgency is concentrated in towns and price brands where lifestyle, demand, and security collide. For consumers, they need to recognize that today's urgency is less about speed and more about precision, identifying the right product, the right timing, and the right strategy. Understanding how these markets mirror and diverge from each other provides a clearer read on where momentum lives now and where it is likely to accelerate next. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Substack, or TikTok at Vince Rocco. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, "We are a nation of many nationalities, many races, many religions, bound together by a single unity, the unity of freedom and equality." So let's not forget that. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am grateful. Keep thinking the good thoughts, and I will see you in January. Have a good day, everybody.